So, have you ever wandered through one of those stunning historic tourist towns?
Yeah.
You're taking in the ancient cobblestones, the centuries-old architecture, that incredible atmosphere.
Oh, absolutely. They're gorgeous.
Right. But then it hits around like 6 p.m. and you suddenly realize the entire place feels like a movie set.
Yeah, exactly. The shops just shutter their windows.
The tour buses pull away and you look around and notice, wait, there are literally no actual locals living here. The town is visually beautiful, but economically and socially, I mean, it's completely hollow.
It is a surprisingly universal experience, actually.
Uh-huh.
You travel to these magnificent, globally recognized heritage sites, and you find out the primary economic engine is, well, simply selling cheap souvenirs to the people who came to look at the buildings.
Right.
The town isn't a living organism anymore. It's just a backdrop.
And that is exactly what we are unpacking today on the deep dive. We've got a fascinating stack of sources in front of us, centered around the Carcassonne 3000 revitalization plan that's authored by Joseph Fansler, along with a companion analysis called The Future of Heritage.
Right, and for anyone listening who might not be familiar, Carcassonne is a famous, heavily fortified medieval French city.
Very famous, yeah.
But they are currently trying to pull off a pretty radical urban experiment. The goal of this municipal plan is not your basic, beautification.
Right, they aren't just putting out some new flower pots to make the tourists happy.
Exactly. This is a comprehensive blueprint designed to transform a stagnant tourist destination into a future-focused, lived-in ecosystem.
And when I was reading through the source material, I couldn't shake this specific analogy. The current state of so many of these historic towns is, it's basically like a beautifully preserved museum exhibit.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right. It's gorgeous to look at behind the glass, but it is absolutely impossible to actually live inside of it or, build a modern future in it. You can't touch anything and you definitely can't change anything.
And that distinction between cosmetic and structural change is really the entire foundation of the plan. Beautification is just painting over a problem.
Hmm.
What we are examining today is a six-pillar strategy to rebuild a local economy from the absolute ground up.
Which brings us to a really interesting point from the analysis. They identify the root cause of that exact museum feeling we were just talking about.
Yeah, the accompanying analysis makes a brilliant observation here. It points out that having a street full of empty downtown shops is not actually a real estate problem. It is a confidence problem.
A confidence problem. Break that down for me. What does that mean in this context?
Well, the plan operates on the premise that when residents walk through their own downtown and see, empty storefronts, crumbling stone facades, zero local life, they internalize that decay.
Oh, I see.
Right. They lose confidence in their town's future. The youth just pack up and leave because they feel no momentum. So the entire Carcassonne strategy is engineered to artificially manufacture confidence by proving, tangibly, that the city is backing its own people.
Got it. So if the municipality actively partners with local entrepreneurs, the economic engine basically restarts.
Exactly.
That sounds great in theory, but getting local life back means you need new local businesses. How do you convince, like, a 20-something to take that massive leap?
It's tough.
Yeah. I mean, starting a business is terrifying anywhere, but doing it in an expensive, hyper-regulated, historic town feels completely impossible.
You have to systematically remove the impossibilities, and that's where the first two pillars of the plan come in. They attack that capital barrier directly.
Okay, how?
Bill 1 establishes a municipal financing facility. The local government essentially steps in as a guarantor for bank loans for selected new businesses.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and they also provide direct, non-repayable grants for the actual fit-out of the shops. So, funding the signage, the shelves, and crucially, the mandatory code compliance renovations.
So they are basically acting as a shock absorber,
Right.
taking the risk off the table so conservative banks will actually lend to a local baker or, I don't know, a tech repair shop.
Yes, but Pillar 2 dictates how those business slots are actually awarded, and it is highly unconventional. They utilize an 80-20 selection model.
Okay, 80-20. So who gets what?
Well, 80% of the business grants go through what they call a merit track. This is judged by a mixed jury, municipal officials, local bankers, ordinary residents.
Okay, makes sense.
Right. They heavily scrutinize the business plan, the viability, the number of local jobs it's going to create.
Which is standard operating procedure for any business incubator, right? Nothing crazy there.
But the remaining 20% is allocated to the dream track. And this track is a pure lottery. Yeah, it is strictly reserved for applicants who have never operated a business before in their lives. To enter, You literally just submit a short letter of intent.
Are you kidding?
If your name is drawn out of the hat, you get the municipal backing.
Okay, I have to stop you there because when I read about this lottery in the sources, my jaw literally dropped.
Yeah.
Giving municipal financial backing to people with zero experience based purely on a random draw.
I know, it sounds wild.
Isn't that like handing the keys to a high-performance sports car to someone who just got their learner's permit? That feels like a massive, irresponsible use of public funds.
It definitely sounds reckless on the surface. I completely agree. But the analysis document explains the psychological mechanism behind this. Remember the confidence problem we just talked about?
Yeah, the internalized decay.
Right. Most young people in these struggling towns never even try to start a business because they assume the system is inherently rigged against them. They look at the barriers and assume you need family wealth, an elite university pedigree, or, political connections just to get a seat at the table.
So they self-reject. They don't apply because they think they've already lost before they even start.
Exactly. The Dream Track is designed to completely shatter that assumption. It visually and publicly proves to the youth of Carcassonne that you don't need elite credentials to get a shot.
That's fascinating.
The plan actually refers to this lottery as the moral heart of the program.
Oh.
It generates local ambition because it broadcasts a crystal clear message. Opportunity here is open to everyone, regardless of your last name.
Sure. Okay, I see the psychological benefit. It gets people excited. But I mean, confidence doesn't pay the wholesale suppliers if the business owner can't do basic math.
Fair point.
How does the city justify the financial liability of handing over a grant to someone who doesn't know what a profit margin is?
And that is exactly where Pillar 3 comes in, the Carcassonne Business Academy.
Ah, okay. The catch.
Yeah, this is the safety net that mitigates your sports car analogy. Every single selected applicant, whether they won the rigorous merit track or the random Dream Track lottery, is required to complete 8 to 12 weeks of mandatory free training before a single euro of funding is dispersed.
Oh, okay. So they do get driving lessons before they get the keys. That makes much more sense. But what does a municipal business academy actually teach? Like theoretical economics?
No, it's intensely practical. It focuses on the mechanics of survival. For example, they spend weeks teaching people how to navigate the French URSF system.
Okay, actually, explain URSF really quickly for anyone listening outside of France.
Right, so URSF is the French government agency that collects Social Security and family benefit contributions. But for a new entrepreneur, it is a notoriously unforgiving labyrinth of paperwork.
Oh, bureaucracy at its finest.
Exactly. One misplaced decimal, one misunderstood classification, or one misfiling deadline can bury a brand new shop in astronomical fines before they've even sold their first product.
Yikes. So the academy demystifies all that red tape.
Yes. They also teach local SEO, digital marketing on a shoestring budget, how to manage inventory margins. Furthermore, they pair every newcomer with an existing veteran business owner in the region for a 12-month mentorship.
Wow. So by the time that lottery winner actually opens their doors, they aren't guessing anymore.
Not at all.
They know their tax obligations, they know how to price their services, and they actually have someone to call when things inevitably go wrong.
Right. And more importantly, it creates a cohort effect. You're not launching 20 isolated businesses. You're launching a connected community of trained entrepreneurs who all know each other from the academy.
That is brilliant. Okay, so let's follow this timeline. We now have a newly trained cohort of local entrepreneurs. They've got the funding locked in, they have the knowledge, and they are ready to sign a lease.
Yep.
But now they face the physical reality of the town itself. They have to actually set up a modern business in a 500-year-old stone building.
Which is no small feat.
Yeah. If you're listening to this and you've ever tried to, renovate your own kitchen, you're probably laughing at the idea of doing construction inside a literal medieval fortress.
No, the physical real estate is absolutely the next major bottleneck. Which brings us to Pillar 4 of the plan, a complete overhaul of the permitting process.
Okay, because historically, getting a permit to change, a light fixture in a French heritage zone can take ages, right?
Ages is an understatement. But under Carcassonne 3000, they are setting up a dedicated revitalization desk inside the Urban Planning Service. They guarantee a 5-day initial response time, and they promise that standard renovation permits will be decided within 30 days.
Wait, how is that even possible?
Yeah.
My understanding of historic European towns is that you have the city asking for one thing, but then you have strict national heritage architects demanding the exact opposite.
Yeah.
It's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube in the dark.
That's a great analogy. The national architects you're referring to are the Architectes des Bâtiments de France, or the ABF. Their entire legal mandate is to protect the historical integrity of the country.
Which means their default answer to modern modifications is usually just no.
Pretty much. Traditionally, a small business owner has to act as the middleman, bouncing between the city's building code requirements and the ABF's historical aesthetic demands. They just get crushed by the bureaucracy.
So how does this new city desk force a national heritage architect to speed up and approve permits in 30 days?
Well, they don't force them, they translate for them. The new system assigns a single, named case officer to every applicant.
Oh, like a concierge.
Exactly. That case officer takes the burden of coordinating with the ABF completely off the shoulders of the business owner. The case officer pre-vets the architectural plans to ensure they meet ABF standards before they are even submitted.
So they act as a dedicated champion inside the bureaucracy, aligning the city's economic goals with the heritage preservation rules.
You hit the nail on the head.
Having a bureaucratic translator is a massive advantage. But it's not just about getting the paperwork signed. What happens in August when that newly permitted bakery turns into a 100-degree stone oven? You can't regulate your way out of a heat wave.
No, you certainly can't. And that brings us to Pillar 5, climate comfort. The plan acknowledges a very blunt truth, a revitalization strategy that ignores the reality of climate change will simply fail.
Because historic stone buildings might look charming in the winter, but in the summer, they trap heat terribly.
Like an oven. So the plan actively funds heritage-sensitive air conditioning and heat pumps.
But how do you put an air conditioning unit on a medieval wall without totally ruining the aesthetic?
You hide them, or you pool resources. The plan provides subsidies for approved double glazing on windows that mimic historic designs. They're even funding shared cooling corridors in the public stone arcades.
What does that mean, shared cooling corridors?
They place discrete, centralized climate control units on hidden rooftops. Those units funnel cool air down into multiple ground floor shops simultaneously.
Oh, that's incredibly smart. And I imagine the city ties this funding to making sure the buildings are actually safe, like code compliance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The funding requires strict code compliance. The property must be brought up to modern electrical, plumbing, and fire safety standards.
Right.
The analysis source states this very clearly. Historic does not have to mean uncomfortable.
I like that.
Because young professionals today simply will not choose to stay in overheating, mold-prone, inefficient apartments. And they aren't going to open shops on dead, sweltering streets.
Right. You can't expect people to martyr themselves just for the sake of living in a postcard.
Exactly. Providing modern, unseen comfort is the unsung hero of true heritage preservation. If the buildings aren't livable, the town dies, no matter how pretty the walls are.
Okay, let's play out this scenario. The town has trained entrepreneurs, the buildings have air conditioning, the permits are streamlined, and the new shops are thriving.
Sounds idyllic.
It does. The downtown is suddenly highly desirable again. But historically, the second a neighborhood becomes desirable, outside investors swoop in.
Ah, yes, gentrification.
They buy up all the newly valuable real estate, turn the apartments into passive assets like Airbnbs, and price out the very locals who made the town cool in the first place. How does Carcassonne 3000 stop that cycle?
This is where the plan really shows its teeth. The entire framework is aggressively and deliberately local first. Absentee investors who just want to purchase properties as passive assets are explicitly excluded from all of these municipal benefits.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
Isn't bringing in outside investment dollars usually the ultimate goal for a struggling town? If a wealthy investor from Paris or London wants to pour millions of euros of their own money into renovating your historic real estate, why would you build a legislative wall to shut them out?
Because of the mechanics of how money actually moves through a community, the expert analysis introduces a concept called the local economic loop.
Okay.
It contrasts two models,
Yep.
passive extraction versus productive ownership. Let's say an absentee landlord from London buys a building in Carcassonne and rents it out to tourists. Every month, that rent money is extracted. It leaves the town permanently to sit in a foreign bank account.
Ah, but with productive ownership.
Let's see if I'm visualizing this correctly. Let's take a single 50-euro note. The city gives a grant to a local shop owner, right?
Yep.
That shop owner takes that 50 euros and pays a local electrician to wire the new lights.
Exactly.
And then that local electrician takes that same 50 euros and spends it on a family dinner at the cafe down the street.
That is the multiplier effect in action. The Carcassonne plan actually mandates this, those renovation grants we discussed earlier. The funds must be spent on a vetted list of local tradespeople.
Oh, wow.
Local painters, local suppliers, local carpenters. That single €50 note bounces around the community multiple times, generating taxable activity and supporting multiple families before it ever leaves the city limits.
Productive ownership, it's a really powerful concept. But how does a city legally enforce that? You can't just ask foreign investors nicely not to buy things. No, they enforce it through a rigorous carrot and stick approach using local taxes. The plan waives or drastically reduces municipal business taxes, known as the CFE, and property taxes, the taxe foncière.
Right, for up to 5 years for local owners, I read that.
Yes, but these incentives come with severe anti-speculation safeguards.
What kind of safeguards are we talking about?
Legal covenants attached directly to the property deed. If a building that received program support is sold to a non-local passive investor during that incentive period, or if it's converted into a short-term tourist rental, it triggers an immediate full financial clawback.
Meaning the new owner has to pay back all the grant money the city originally provided.
Every single euro, plus a transfer surcharge penalty. They make it financially ruinous to try and flip a revitalized taxpayer-funded property into a passive tourist asset. They've basically built a legal fortress around the local economy.
So with the protected local economy, modernized buildings, and local entrepreneurs, what is the ultimate identity of Carcassonne meant to be?
That's the big question.
Yeah, like who is this town actually for in the year 2030 and beyond? What is the end game?
The end game is a massive strategic repositioning. This is covered under Pillar 6, a family-first downtown. The goal is to fundamentally transition the city's identity from a historic tourist destination to a historic, future-focused living ecosystem.
It's like a software update for an entire city.
I love that, yes.
They are keeping the gorgeous vintage hardware, the medieval walls, the stone arcades, the ancient architecture, but they're installing a cutting-edge family and tech-friendly operating system to run it.
And that new operating system is all about creating habitual attachment. Pillar 6 funds outdoor cinemas, designated pet-friendly zones, shaded pedestrian walking routes, regular seasonal markets.
Okay, so making it livable.
Right. The strategy is to give local families a reason to go downtown without needing a specific transactional purpose. You just go because it's where community life happens.
And by changing that environment, they aren't just retaining the people who were born there, they're actively positioning the town to attract a completely new demographic, aren't they?
Yes, exactly. The analysis points out a massive post-pandemic shift. There are millions of people right now, remote workers, AI entrepreneurs, creatives, burned-out urban professionals in Paris or Northern Europe.
Who just want out of the big city.
Right. They are desperately looking for a lower cost of living, combined with a Mediterranean lifestyle, high walkability, and strong community. Carcassonne is pitching itself as an AI-friendly entrepreneurial hub that just happens to be located inside a stunning medieval fortress.
Usually you have to choose between those two things. You either go to a sterile, modern tech hub with no soul to find a job, or you move to a beautiful, historic town and just accept that the local economy is dead.
Exactly, and Carcassonne wants to offer both.
Do they have actual metrics they are trying to hit, or is this all just sort of aspirational?
No, they have very aggressive headline targets. Over a 36-month period, they aim to have the ground floor commercial vacancy rate.
Have it.
Wow. Yeah. They plan to open 60 new businesses, with at least 12 coming directly from that lottery dream track we discussed. And they aim to complete climate comfort upgrades on 100 historic buildings.
Those are serious, measurable goals. But how do you ultimately measure if the sort of soul of the city has been saved?
Well, the analysis argues that the real hidden metric of success isn't actually tax revenue. It is talent retention.
Okay.
If you can keep just 100 young entrepreneurs and 50 young families from moving away to bigger cities over a 10-year period, you fundamentally alter the trajectory of the town. You shift the emotional temperature.
Right.
When people see young families staying and new bakeries opening in comfortable historic buildings, a collective belief takes hold. People start to look around and say, something real is happening here. Once that belief exists, the revitalization becomes self-sustaining.
Let's step back and summarize the massive ground we've covered today. Revitalizing a dying historic city takes way more than just fixing the pavement. It requires an integrated, functional ecosystem. You need a financial system that gives ordinary people a shot like that dream track lottery without demanding a fancy pedigree. You absolutely must have modern climate adaptations and streamlined permits for ancient spaces because, let's face it, nobody wants to live in an oven.
No one.
And perhaps most importantly, you need fierce, legally binding protections for the local economic loop, defending the town against passive extraction from outside speculators.
It is a profound blueprint for making heritage productive, rather than just decorative.
Which brings it all back to you, listening right now. Think about your own hometown or maybe a favorite historic city you visited on vacation. Are the leaders in those towns just focused on superficial beautification to keep the tourists happy?
Or are they doing the hard, structural, legal work to build a future-proof economic loop for the people who actually have to live there?
It's the difference between managing a monument and growing a living city. And here is a final thought to leave you with, building on everything we've explored today about Carcassonne's local first legal fortress.
Right, the anti-speculation covenants.
Exactly. We talked about how they're essentially putting up economic walls to keep passive outside investors out and keep local money in. But how does that localized protectionism clash with the broader interconnected world we live in?
It's a tricky balance.
It really is. If a French city deliberately penalizes a real estate investor from Berlin or London just for not being a local resident, does that eventually collide with the European Union's fundamental laws of free movement of capital?
That's a huge legal question.
Right. Can a small town truly save its soul by putting up economic borders? And is this hyper-local legal defense the new battleground for globalization? It's definitely something to think about the next time you walk down a perfectly preserved, entirely empty historic street.